Welcome, friends. Let's rise in body and in spirit and sing our opening hymn, number 1018, Come and Go With Me. Welcome to all who are yearning for community. Come in, be among us. To all who are just getting started, to all who long to go deeper, to all with tender places needing care, come in, be among us. I'm Reverend Joyce Palmer, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. Our worship team this morning also includes music director Tim Anderson and our choir, and worship associate Alexis Simmons. Autumn Powell, office manager, is running tech for us today. Today, we are also joined by members of our community who will share their experiences with belonging. They are Billy Callahan, Shiraz Tata, Caleb Price, Barb Chidley, and Teresa Palmino. If you are in person, do join us for coffee hour after the service. Our racial and economic justice team are providing hospitality today. If you are online, do like, comment, and share this worship service with others. If today is your first day worshiping with us, we are thrilled that you are here. Let us know who you are so that we can be in touch. In the spirit of community and connection, we invite you now to greet those around you.
I'm Alexis, and my pronouns are she, her. We gather today on the ancestral lands of the Ho-Chunk and Potawatomi peoples, and we are in deep gratitude for the privilege of being on this sacred ground. This land, this nation, our faith, and our lives are shaped by a complex history of oppression, freedom, resistance, migration, conflict, justice, and hope. From these intertwined legacies, we learn, reflect, seek healing, offer gratitude, and strive to create a world that will reflect the choices we make for future generations. We gather today for worship, and as we gather, we join in our sacred ritual. The flaming chalice is the symbol of our faith, a beacon of truth, a fire for justice, a warmth for the soul. Luke Smith will light our chalice today. Luke is in 3rd grade. He likes playing basketball with his sister. He's looking forward to Halloween and glow-in-the-dark family. Let us speak together the covenant of our church. Love is the spirit of this church, and reason is its guide. To dwell together in peace, to seek truth and freedom, and to serve human need. This is our covenant. Now let's sing together our chalice response song.
So Luke was sharing that his family is going to dress as a glow-in-the-dark family. That's his Halloween costume he's looking forward to. Sorry, I wrote a quick note. We gather and worship together. We begin with the prayers of the people, the naming of joy and sorrow, the holding in hearts of those we love. I invite you in this space to name those aloud or in silence who you are holding in your heart this morning. We hold in our heart all those recovering from illnesses and experiencing maladies of body or soul. May mercy and healing attend them. Here we enter a space woven of many threads, each voice, each story, each life, adding color and strength to the whole. Belonging is not granted by any gatekeeper. It rises from the circle that we create together. May this gathering remind us that we are never alone and that here, every soul has a home. Come, let us worship together. Today, we are grateful for all those serving with our children and youth. In the nursery, Director of Religious Education, Lindsay Trank, and our new program assistant, Elizabeth Long, are caring for the little ones. Our first through third graders are with Katie Conrad and Sandy Campbell. And our youth group is led by Amy Brandon and Spitty Tata. We are still seeking volunteers for our fourth through sixth grade group, and we welcome those who feel drawn to help. Today, they will join with the younger group. And now we have a special treat. Grace will read our story for all ages.
Good morning, I'm Grace, and today I'll be reading A Sick Day for Amos McGee, written by Philip C. Stead. Amos McGee was an early riser. Every morning when the alarm clock clanged, he swung his legs out of bed and swapped his pajamas for a fresh pressed uniform. He would wind his watch and set a pot of water to boil, saying to the sugar bowl, "A spoonful for my oatmeal, please, and 2 for my teacup." Belly full and ready for the workday, he ambled out the door. Every day, Amos waited for the number 5 bus. "Next stop, City Zoo," the bus driver would call. 6 a.m., right on time, he'd reply. Amos had a lot of things to do at the zoo, but he always made time to visit his good friends. He'd play chess with the elephant, who thought and thought before making a move. Run races with the tortoise, who never, ever lost. Sit quietly with the penguin, who was very shy. Lend a handkerchief to the rhinoceros, who always had a runny nose. And at sunset, read stories to the owl, who was afraid of the dark. One day, Amos woke up with the sniffles and the sneezes and the chills. He swung his achy legs out of bed, curled them back again, and said, "Ugh, I don't think I'll be able to go to work today." Meanwhile, at the zoo, the animals waited for their friend. The elephant arranged his pawns and polished his castles. The tortoise stretched his legs and limbered up. The penguin sat quietly all by himself. The rhinoceros worried that his allergies were worsening. The owl perched atop a tall stack of storybooks, scratching his head with concern. "Where's Amos?" the animals wondered. Later that day. "Hooray, my good friends are here." The elephant prepared a game of chess. Amos thought and thought before making a move. "I'm too tired to run races today," said Amos to the tortoise. "Let's play hide and seek instead." The tortoise hid inside his shell. Amos hid beneath the covers. Amos yawned. "I could use a nap." The penguin sat quietly, keeping Amos's feet warm. "Achoo!" Amos woke up with a sneeze. The rhinoceros was ready with a handkerchief. "I'm beginning to feel much better, thank you," said Amos to his friends. He swung his legs out of bed. "Perhaps we'll share a pot of tea." Amos wound his alarm clock. "It's getting late," he said. "After all, we all have a morning bus to catch." So Amos said goodnight to the elephant, and goodnight to the tortoise, and goodnight to the penguin, and goodnight to the rhinoceros, and goodnight to the owl, who, knowing that Amos was afraid of the dark, read a story aloud before turning out the light. Now join us in saying the first verse of this little light of mine as we head down to our religious education classes.
I hope you're subscribed to the Kairos, our weekly newsletter, Please be sure to read it for announcements about upcoming events and activities. This week, I want to thank everyone who attended our outing yesterday at the Apple Orchard. We had fun, great conversations, and we're grateful that the rain held off. Next Sunday, September 21st, we will have a welcome reception for our interim minister, Reverend Brett Lordy. Please join us in Deal Hall after the service. I want to extend a special invitation to those who are new or newer to our congregation. On Sunday, October 5th, we'll be holding our Getting to Know You after the service, beginning at 11:30. This hour-and-a-half session is a chance to learn more about our story as a faith community, how you can become more connected here, and ways to nurture and deepen your spiritual journey. If you registered before, we have a series of background videos for you to watch. The registration link will be in this week's Kairos, or you can sign up at the welcome guest table in the lobby. If you're interested in getting to know you, we would love to have you join us. We will provide childcare, and if any of you have questions, please see me after the service. I'll be glad to help. Each month, we'll be spotlighting the work of one of our faith and action teams. For this month, we're focusing on our racial and economic justice team, and I'm pleased to invite Barb to come forward to share what they've been working on.
Good morning. My name is Barb Basai. Pronouns are she and her. The Racial and Economic Justice Team is meeting today at 11:30 in the library, and Reverend Joyce will join us. We will be hosting a wonderful Wednesday this week on Wednesday, September 17th. Our guest speaker is Reverend Violet Jonaker, who will speak about this year's Crop Walk, upcoming in October. The Crop Walk is centered around fundraising for hunger relief, local and global, community empowerment, raising awareness of hunger issues, solidarity with folks who need assistance. Reverend Violet will share in greater depth about the impact this year's Crop Walk in Rockford will have. And finally, I'd like to share that our church will host an exhibit in our narthex the first weekend in October, sponsored by Uncaged Art. The exhibit is comprised of 29 beautiful and inspiring artworks produced by migrant children held in the Tornillo, Texas Detention Center. Today, we will share the plate with Uncaged Art, the organization that made it possible for these students to share their work. We appreciate your generosity. The offering will be given and most gratefully received.
Good morning. This is a reading from Brene Brown's writing, Strong Back, Soft Front, Wild Heart. True belonging is so hard these days. It's not about sitting in or staying quiet or hating the same people that your family or friends hate, even when you don't even know them. This is how I define true belonging. The spiritual practice of belonging in and belonging to yourself so deeply that you can share your most authentic self with the world and find sacredness in both being part of something and standing alone in the wilderness. True belonging does not require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are. So, I think if we're going to make true belonging a part of our daily lives, we're going to need a strong back, a soft front, and a very wild heart. Both courage and vulnerability as we abandon the certainty of our ideological bunkers and head off into this wilderness where we say, I don't agree. I believe this. Once we've found the courage to stand alone, once we've said what we believe and faced the criticism and fear, our own and that in others, we may leave the wilderness, but I believe the wild has marked our hearts. I think this is the wild heart piece of true belonging. Once you've said, I'm going to belong to myself first and betray myself last, that's the mark of a wild heart.
Growing up, I had a little bit of an idea that I didn't completely belong. Whether it was being pulled out of class to do quote-unquote advanced math in first grade, or eating lunch with my English teacher instead of peers in high school, my sense of being an outsider was pretty well solidified by the time I became an adult. I have spent my life doing a lot of pretending to be normal. The technical term for that is masking. Masking, also called social camouflaging, is when a person conceals their natural personality or behavior. And that's why finding spaces of true belonging matters so much. As Unitarians, we pride ourselves on being open-minded, accepting, kind, all of the attributes that might convince someone to finally take the mask off. And I can say, as someone who joined this church about 2 years ago, that it couldn't be more true. I can come to this church and be the full weirdo that I am, and hardly anyone bats an eyelash. My kids can come dressed in fairy wings and Kentucky Derby hats, or even breakdance in the aisles, and the only reactions I see are glee, adoration, and cheering faces. And speaking of kids, yesterday we had the pleasure of attending the get-together at Curran's Apple Orchard. It was such a nice opportunity to gather together and feel included, especially for an event specifically catered for children. It's just one more way that I feel my family and I belong here. And now, as worship associate, I want to share something even more personal. A poem I wrote about finally finding belonging for myself in a relationship. And despite it being extremely personal, revealing the innermost workings of my brain, I feel comfortable sharing it here. So without further ado, this poem is entitled, What Do I Smell Like? Like untamed forests and unkempt hair, like strong desire curled alongside safety, a cat relaxing by the fire. Like the salty sweat of a hard day's work, like apple orchards in the fall and berry patches in the summer, juices staining hands, chins, elbows. Like a long, deep breath, your arms wrapped around me, strong, secure, only two of us existing in that moment. Like knowing you now, then, and for eternity, when all that's left of us are memories and dust glowing in the autumn sun.
Please rise and body your spirit for our hymn 157, Step by Step, the Longest March. I invite you now into a time of meditation or prayer. The words for our centering are entitled In Gatherings and was written by Marta Valentine. In gatherings, we are stirred like the leaves of the fall season, rustling around sacred trees, tossed hither and yon until we come together to rest quietly, softly. We come to gather strength from each other. We come to give strength to each other. We come to ask for strength from the spirit of all that is and is not. When our hearts sing or when they frown, it is the way of compassion telling us to give. It is the way of peace telling us to share our gifts. For we are happiest and most powerful when love is made apparent in and through us. Spirit of the circle that is love, as we twirl in this dance that is life, we give thanks for reminding us each day of our task of ministering to each other with a searching glance, a safe touch, a generous smile, a thoughtful word. Thank you for reminding us that we are always building our beloved comunidad. Thank you for reminding us that through our covenant with you, we covenant with each other and are made whole. In gratitude, we celebrate with open hearts and minds. We discover who we are, separate from each other and within one another. In this circle that holds all life, may we ever work toward widening its boundaries until there are none. Amen. Pause. Blessed be.
the circle, draw the circle wide. Draw the circle, draw the circle wide. No one stands alone, we'll stand side by side. Draw the circle, draw the circle wide. Draw the circle, draw the circle wide. Draw the circle, draw the circle wide. No one stands alone, we'll stand side by side. Draw the circle, draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle, draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle, draw the circle wide. Draw the circle, draw the circle wide. Draw the circle, draw the circle wide. No one stands alone, we'll stand side by side. Draw the circle, draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle, draw the circle wide. Draw the circle wide, draw it wider still. Let this be our song. No one stands alone, standing side by side. Draw the circle, draw the circle wide. Draw the circle, draw the circle
These words were spoken by Mother Teresa. They're also in concrete at the Peace Plaza up on McFarland and Riverside. If we have no peace, it is because we have forgotten that we belong to each other. And Billy is one of the people who, just by being herself, reminds me we belong to each other.
Good morning, I'm Billy Callahan. A sense of belonging is a basic human need. It is essential for survival, thriving, and overall well-being, and provides psychological safety and connection. The psychologist Abraham Maslow, who we know for his Maslow's hierarchy of needs, placed love and belonging above physiological needs like air, water, food, and shelter, and above safety. Love and belonging are necessary before an individual can go on to fulfill their need for esteem and self-actualization. From belonging grows self-respect, confidence, personal achievement, moral development, creativity and joy, a sense of purpose, and the pursuit of meaning. Empathy and attunement have been lifelong values of mine. One of the greatest gifts we can give is to meet somebody where they are and to truly see them. The power of attunement is the profound impact of truly seeing, understanding, and responding to the emotional and relational needs of another person. Attunement fosters deep connection, emotional regulation, healing from trauma, and a greater sense of peace and love. Attunement is one form of belonging in action. Belonging can have many meanings, but at a time of sharp divisions, we have a responsibility to do our part to foster connections and deepen understanding to bridge these divides. As a member of the Belonging Begins With Us Rockford movement, we work to build a culture of belonging in our community. We envision a city that embraces differences and recognizes our shared humanity, where everyone knows they are welcome and truly belongs. The work that we do is based on the work of John A. Powell. He is the director of the Othering and Belonging Institute at UC Berkeley. John calls othering the problem of the 21st century. He defines it as a set of dynamics, processes, and structures that cause persistent inequity on the basis of identity. Othering is the denial of a person or group's humanity based on their identity in the process of generating structural inequality, which is found at every level of society. This is expressed through all the isms that we see, such as racism, Nazism, classism, ableism, ageism, and all the others. Othering is not just a problem here, but all over the world. Belonging is the antidote to othering. Belonging without othering provides a path out of the darkness of toxic polarization, and put simply, differences of all kinds should be celebrated, not turned into scary stories that drive hatred. A place of belonging is not one in which certain in-groups are welcome and out-groups are not. The universal right to belong should also not be confused with the right to cause harm or dominate others. Belonging includes everyone. The Othering and Belonging Institute has developed a distinct belonging framework that can root out structural inequity and exclusion while helping us turn towards rather than against one another. This is done through the work of bridging. Bridging is the practice of creating connections and building empathy across divisions within society to foster a sense of belonging for all people. Bridging involves actively seeking common ground, respecting differences, and developing shared narratives to move from an us versus them to a more inclusive us and we. The goal of bridging is not to erase differences, but to create a shared future where everyone has a meaningful voice and can participate in shaping their communities. Bridging is not easy work, and he recommends that we begin with building short bridges. While the work of building belonging includes interpersonal work, it must always involve transforming structures, because most often structures do the work of exclusion. Power and power imbalances are woven into everything, including the distribution of work, program design, collective histories, relationships, and beyond. Effective belonging initiatives are transparent about how power is distributed and how that distribution may need to change to create belonging. Rockford's Belonging Initiative began in the fall of 2019 with the very first meeting coordinated by the Northern Illinois Center for Nonprofit Excellence held here at our church. Recognizing the divisions tearing us apart, more than 30 people, quite a few of them in this room, some who have been working on similar causes for many years and other new to the work, gathered for deep discussion on the work of John A. Powell and how we can each do our part to strengthen the fabric of our society rather than tear it apart. We were one of the very first communities in the country to take on the charge of building belonging, not just within a business, not within a sector, but across our entire city. John and his team worked alongside us for over 2 years as we began to build belonging into systems and structures here at home. We also brought John here twice in person to speak on othering and belonging in his work with Targeted Universalism, or as he calls it, Belonging 2.0. Over the past 5 years, our work has quietly grown and influenced our community. A shifting group of more than 60 individuals representing area nonprofits, community groups, employers, and the city of Rockford meet each month to learn about the work that each of us is doing with a focus on how we can impact systems and structures to bring about positive change. Other group members have gone on to lead their own deep work in the community, some of which you'll hear about today. Measuring movements is not easy, but we've seen a growing commitment to belonging across area institutions, faith communities, businesses, and organizations. We've seen employers building systems and structures that embody belonging and work within our schools to uplift student voices and student leadership to build systems that work for all. We've seen beautiful art created in the spirit of belonging. You may even have seen belonging billboards around town this past summer. While there's always work to be done, there's good progress being made. We've worked with the Rockford Area Arts Council and the Rockford Public Library to develop lesson plans for youth to tell their own belonging stories through artistic expression. If you want to access those, let me know after service and I can share where they are. And activities for library patrons to print belonging keychains and t-shirts and to tell stories in their podcasting and green screen studios. We will be working next year to educate more of the community on what belonging is and build a community commitment to belonging. You can read John's books or find videos of his work on YouTube, and there's many resources on the Othering and Belonging Institute's website where you can learn more about the root of this effort. May we all do our part to build deeper connections and foster a sense of belonging here and in our broader community.
And these are words from Albert Einstein. Although I am a typical loner in my daily life, my awareness of belonging to the invisible community of those who strive for truth, beauty, and justice has prevented me from feelings of isolation. Shiraz is one person by being herself who reminds me that I'm not alone.
I still remember attending that first meeting in Deal Hall. And I remember some of the words Pam Reidenbach of Nickney shared and her excitement at bringing John Powell, who she had worked or heard at a conference, to Rockford. And Ellen was there and shared how I think belonging felt like it was at the root of everything important that we need to focus on. And Joyce Higgins, who I miss, who was with Booker Washington Center, shared some important words. It felt good and right. And it has meant a lot to me to stay involved in this belonging initiative that welcomes everyone, that are committed to make Rockford a city where the feeling of belonging hopefully emerges for all. And folks in this group continue to work on making their spaces where they work or play or do nonprofit work, spaces in which folks there feel like they belong. And we all support each other's efforts, unmask from time to time, see each other fully, and give each other feedback. Attending the meetings has helped me meet people from various organizations, some of which I had met before, but as often happens, being involved in work towards a common goal or steps towards a goal has helped me feel more connected and like I belong to this belonging group, which actually is more diverse in terms of race, ethnicity, and country of origin than any other group I'm involved in over the last 4 or 5 years, and that is important for me. I feel like I belong when I don't feel like I'm the only one. Inscape Collective, as you know, the nonprofit in Midtown, was also just starting actually around that time. And it was perfect timing because it has been so helpful for me to keep the principles of belonging in mind as a group of us co-created that space in Midtown. It reminded me that it's not just about getting people who wish to be involved in co-creating the space around the same table, but as John Powell says, having people build the table together. Sounds wonderful, and we do keep trying to do this at Inscape, but let me tell you, it's pretty hard at times. And questions that come up are, how does one be fully present with folks as we engage in building this table together? How does one really listen to what others have to say about what they want to happen in that space when the ideas are very different? How do I remember that folks may not actually feel safe sharing what they really want, and that a variety of factors may get in the way of their involvement until they really trust us? It's easy for me to say, hey, this is safe, I really want to hear from you, this is a place where you can belong. Well, who am I to say that, right? How does one respect people's diversity of ideas and feelings and backgrounds and make decisions in a non-hierarchical way and keep things moving when running a nonprofit? These are some questions I keep asking myself, as does our core group of volunteers that's now called the board, because we are actually incorporated ourselves as Inscape Midtown Collective. What questions might you keep asking as you build a table together, wherever you are involved? Another couple questions that keep coming up for me are, how does one bridge the gap between those up front or those in leadership positions and the community at large? How do we know when and how others feel like they belong? So it felt quite odd to me to talk with you from up here today and not engage you in some way. So in doing this in a trauma-informed way, I want to tell you, you are always in charge, so you don't have to do this just because I'm requesting you to. But most of you, I think I gave you a note card and a pencil as you came in. If you didn't get one, there are some in the basket here, and folks who didn't get them maybe can take one and just pass the basket around so you can have one. And my request to you is, I'll give you a choice. You could finish the sentence, I feel like I belong when. Just jot down a few words, don't overthink this. I feel like I belong when, or if you'd rather not complete that sentence, just write some words or draw an image that comes up when you hear the word belonging. And if you may, you can drop that card into a basket that I'll put out as you head out. I know our church is trying to form a team that focuses on creating belonging, a stronger sense of belonging here, and maybe it'll help them to see what people write when you finish the sentence, I feel like I belong when, or write some words that come up or an image that comes up when you hear the word belonging. Take a few seconds to do so. Thank you.
And these are words from Grace Lee Boggs. You cannot change any society unless you take responsibility for it, unless you see yourself as belonging to it and responsible for changing it. And Caleb, although I do not know you, I trust that you are one of the people who has taken responsibility to change us to a culture of belonging. So thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Caleb Price. My pronouns are he, him. With that, I wanted to have more of a conversational discussion about how I engage in belonging. First off, one of the ways that I bring that into my work environment, I have to tell you about what I do in order to be able to speak on that. I work for i3 Broadband, humbly as their Northern Illinois Community Engagement Specialist. And with that, my job is to incorporate my organization into the community, and one of our focuses is belonging. And with that, we created a George Chase blood drive that was to be able to meet the needs of an individual in the Woodstock community, because that individual was recently diagnosed with a form of blood cancer. And so with that, my job as that community person is to make sure that we are wrapping our arms around that individual and we're meeting them where they're at. I cannot express and echo enough what everybody has said so far today, that belonging is here. You all represent that and embody that, so thank you for that. With that as well, other ways that I like to advocate for belonging is through the housing initiative that I was a part of through the city of Rockford. My job ever since then, after receiving 60 grand worth of renovations on our house, is to advocate for that same program for those that are in need and that don't know about the resources that this community has available to them. Also, joining a nonprofit board is extremely important. If you are looking to find ways to get involved in your local community and finding ways to make an impact, joining a nonprofit board is a wonderful way to get that going. Additionally, the hardest part is being able to create a safe space for individuals and making sure that people feel welcomed. And the best way that you can do that is by taking a lot of internal reflection and understanding what your role is here in the community. Embrace that. You're different. We're all different. Embrace that difference. That makes us belong together. Additionally, it can be hard work. It can be challenging work. It can be long work. However, it pays off. Even a millimeter of movement is still a millimeter of movement ahead than we had before. And lastly, I want to say, think about it. When you see inequalities around you, don't be afraid to be that voice to call that out. That is how we start moving forward, and we need to focus on finding ways that we can bring ourselves together as a community, especially in times where we are as divisive as we are now. So now is the time that we lean into the hard work and we find that opportunity within our own community and within ourselves as well. Thank you.
These words are from a book by Peter Block called Community, the Structure of Belonging. We need to pay attention to what we really care about. Where can my goodwill make a real difference? That's where I belong. The word belong has to do with being an owner. Something belongs to me. To belong to a community is to act as a creator and co-owner of that community. What I consider mine, I will build and nurture. So to belong, you commit to being part of the community. Barb is one person that I look to who is doing this in our community. Many times in invisible ways, but I know she's there and I trust her.
Good morning. My name's Barb Chidley. My pronouns are she, her, but I also want to acknowledge that that really doesn't matter for me, but it does for those for whom pronouns can get confused. And I want to share with you that I am aware that I bring that privilege as a cis hetero woman with me today, and I see all of you for whom pronouns really do matter. When I started at the City of Rockford in 2019 as neighborhood specialist, I brought a lot of assumptions with me. Some were very effective. It was actually education that I had had in a classroom at Auburn High School where my students taught me what it was like to live in their neighborhoods, what it was like to grow up on the west side of Rockford, what it was like to live in poverty, what it was like to live in a Rockford Housing Authority housing facility, what it was like to have gunshots come through their front door and lodge in the wall right above the couch in their living room. My students taught me a lot, and I took that out there into the community and really had empathy for folks that I was engaging with. But what I didn't realize was the classroom is a completely different environment than being out in the neighborhoods. The repetition of students being in my classroom every day gave us that opportunity to have lengthy conversations day after day, for them to share their experiences in a way that was meaningful, for me to make them feel empowered. And the things that we were able to accomplish by the end of the school year were based on that repeated day after day after day, building of relationship, building of connection. And we don't have that out in our neighborhoods. So I took that little bit of ignorance with me, not realizing the significant difference as I went out into neighborhoods. And by the end of that first year in my position, I realized that the one thing that we needed to do more than anything else was to be out there on each other's doorsteps. We launched an initiative called Connect Rockford, where we were looking to identify block-level leadership in each and every block, every neighborhood, because we knew that the people that you interact with on a daily basis are the people that have the most impact on your life. But I found really quickly that even the existing neighborhood associations, and we never had enough neighborhood associations to truly cover our entire community, that those neighborhood associations were hesitant. Because there's fear in going to someone's door that you've never been to before. There's fear, understandable fear, in knocking on the door of someone or interacting with someone or trying to get to know somebody who is from a different race, a different class, a different background, a different culture. So I started going out door to door. And in 2022, we as the city of Rockford actually identified 6 different focus areas throughout our community in significantly underserved areas that had higher crime than the neighborhood in which I live. And we decided we would call it a neighborhood improvement initiative, and we would spend month after month for 6 months going out into those neighborhoods and providing them with the various supports that they needed. I personally went door to door in multiple of those neighborhoods and have continued to focus in those neighborhoods ever since then. I knocked on doors that first year in 2022. I had incredible conversations with folks, but the people that were sharing a lot with me, I realized, were people that were already pretty well connected to services and supports and resources. They felt totally empowered in many ways. The people that I didn't get to talk to, people that either closed their doors or did not even open their doors to begin with, people that didn't show up to the block parties that we threw, were folks that were significantly disconnected in a lot of ways. So how do we continue to try and build that connection, make people feel like they really belong in the city of Rockford, that they are connecting back with the city of Rockford, that they actually know that they've got somebody that they can turn to when they're in need? One of the women that I had encountered when I did some door-to-door outreach back even before we started the neighborhood improvement initiatives told me that she felt like the mayor, her alderwoman, they never came down into her neighborhood or understood what life was like for her and her neighbors. Turns out that woman was the grandmother of a young woman I had had in class at Auburn High School. And when she told me the story of having her son killed by gun violence, I already knew the story. Her granddaughter had written about it in my class. That impacted her to the point where she stood in front of me and cried and cried and cried as she said, we've talked and we've talked and we've talked to people in leadership positions in the city of Rockford. We've talked until we're blue in the face, but nobody listens. They don't understand what we go through on a day-to-day basis. So when I had helped to decide what some of those focus areas were for the Neighborhood Improvement Initiative, I chose her street specifically as within one of the focus areas. So I was able to connect with her repeatedly, and I connected with other neighbors of hers. Like I said, I went door to door and knocked. But in the second year, when we decided, okay, we've already done the knocking, let's see if we can meet another need. Let's just do some focused office hours so that people could come in that neighborhood. It was to the Montague Street Library. And I went around door to door, but this time I just put a flyer up in each and every one of the doors saying, do you have questions for the city of Rockford? Do you need anything? You're not sure who else to call? Come see Barb at Montague Library on these days. And every time I was at the library, I would go back and put those flyers up. And I connected with several people in the neighborhood. And I had multiple neighborhoods in which I did that. But what I discovered was once they got that individual need met, I didn't talk to them anymore. The following year, we thought, well, let's do something more fun than that. Let's offer some free coffee and donuts, at 10 o'clock in the morning, see if maybe we could even engage some of the older folks in the neighborhood, the retirees, people. Not all people who are older consider themselves to be retirees either, important to note. We put out signs repeatedly. I went around with flyers one time, but then it's like, no, let's do some yard signs out there so people would see. Let's have the mayor come. Let's have other leaders the directors for different departments, public works folks, because the infrastructure issues in those neighborhoods impact everybody. Even fewer people engaged. So even Bertha, if I went to her door, I could talk to her or her husband. She never came to any of my events. I made relationships in other neighborhoods with other people. They still didn't come. So what I've learned, and what is so crucial for us to remember when it comes to building a sense of belonging, is that trust really does require repeated engagement. For people to feel like they belong, they need to feel seen, they need to feel heard. And the only way for that to be true is for them to see results. I also realized that while people might talk to me and trust that I was going to go to bat for them and try and get things accomplished in their neighborhood, that didn't translate into a relationship with the city of Rockford as a whole, because they didn't always have faith that I was going to be able to get things done for them. So this year, I'm going back out door to door, and I'm going to knock, and I'm going to try and engage in those conversations again. I have found that when I do that, I will have people that will talk to me for 20 minutes. I had, back in Bertha's neighborhood on her street last year, spent an hour and a half talking to 4 different households alone, because they're so willing to talk when they feel like you really mean it. I had people in that same neighborhood say to me when I first was out there, so the city hasn't forgotten about us? Because I showed up there where they are, and others have said that today. We need to meet people where they are. Shiraz did a beautiful job of talking about the questions that we need to ask. We need to understand people's psychology. When you asked, what do we need to feel like we belong? Shiraz, I knew that was the question you were going to ask. And I thought about it differently sitting here and realized what I need is for people to really understand who I am, what my heart is, what my thinking is, and respect that and support that, not make assumptions about me. I think we've all experienced that. And I think oftentimes we're so determined to love on people that we do make assumptions. Because I think we've all been taught since we were little that we're supposed to live by the golden rule. But I have learned that to make people feel like they belong, we have to throw out the golden rule. Somebody, I don't remember where I read it, said we need to live by the platinum rule instead. And the platinum rule is, I don't treat you the way I want to be treated. I treat you the way you want to be treated. But I don't know what that is until I'm there on your doorstep, in the same room with you, listening. Growing to understand that even though you might say, yes, I'd like to come to your table, Barb, that there are competing priorities. That I can't assume that if I invite you to a table and you don't show up, that that's because it didn't matter to you. I don't know for sure what was going on in your life in that moment, on that day, at that time. If you don't show up at my table, but I think it's really important to make you feel like you belong there, I have to come back out to you. And hopefully find out what it is you need, hopefully find out what it is makes you feel like you belong. But I know that the onus is on me as neighborhood specialist for the city of Rockford. If I'm going to build a sense of community in which people feel like they belong in Rockford, that they need to see me out there. They need to see somebody else working with me, because I've got some wonderful community partners who do it. Ellen would be out going door to door with me. In order to make sure people feel like they belong, we need to treat them the way they want to be treated. And the only way to do that is to meet them where they are, ask those questions, and find out what it is we can do to make them feel like they are important members of the city of Rockford. Thank you.
These are the words from James Baldwin in his book, The Fire Next Time. True belonging is not passive. It's not the belonging that comes with just joining a group. It's not fitting in or pretending or selling out because it's safer. It's a practice that requires us to be vulnerable, get uncomfortable, and learn how to be present with people without sacrificing who we are. We want true belonging, but it takes tremendous courage to knowingly walk into hard moments. Teresa Deer is one person that I've watched over and over walk into hard moments.
I'm Teresa Palmino, she, her. Years ago, I decided to check this place out. The person at the guest table was very nice, but for the first few times in Deal Hall during coffee hour, I sat at a table alone. There were so many conversations going on around me, so I did some people watching while I sat there feeling awkward. I was moved by the messages I heard during service, so I kept coming back. One Sunday, a member asked me to join her. That broke the ice. Little by little, others started talking to me too. I wanted to help with coffee hour, but didn't know how to start, where to sign up for it. So one day, I walked into the kitchen and said, "Can I help?" I felt awkward asking and was very glad my help was accepted. Now I have a hard time getting out of that kitchen. I remember the first time standing outside the library, working up the courage to open the door. If memory serves me right, I was cheerfully greeted and welcomed by Shiraz and her amazing smiles, saying, "Come on in," to a justice meeting. Before long, Chris, in charge of membership at the time, had me very involved. The caring team has 11 active members. Not everyone wants to make soup, give rides, or visit at the hospital. That's okay. We have 3 subcommittees. One of them is Welcoming and Belonging team. It takes the place of the old membership team, plus much more. We have 4 people on the team right now who are also active in other areas, and we need help. This doesn't have to be an every week commitment, by the way, okay? We're looking for people with warmth, empathy, listening skills, and a friendly smile to join our team. Our purpose? To create a culture of hospitality, connection, and belonging from first visit to full engagement, to foster meaningful relationships, support spiritual exploration, and guide new members toward active participation, newcomers. I'm grateful to the woman who asked me to sit at her table in Deal Hall that Sunday. No one should sit alone in a full room. If you want to make coffee, let me know. I'll give you a tour of the kitchen. If there's a group meeting in the library on Sunday, just walk in. If you're an old member, a new member, or someone here just checking us out, I would like to invite you to sit at our table after service today. The speakers that are here that you heard will be sitting with me. Ask questions, make comments. Join us and belong. Thank you.
Please rise and body your spirit for our closing hymn, number 107, 1107, in your till hymnal. We are building a new way. Alexis will extinguish our chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry with us until we are together again. While she does that, I invite you to join hands for our benediction. If you'd rather not be touched, place your hands in your pockets or on your shoulders. The words for our benediction are, thank you so much for your patience and your love. Go in peace. Now let us sing our closing blessing.